it was a really big defining moment because I feel like it kind of catalyzed me into what I didn't realize at the time, but now I know would become like my deeper dharma of being this like unfiltered, unadulterated, expressionary that has a real channel.
Welcome to the Alive and Aligned podcast, a show dedicated to helping you live a life of truth and share your fullest gifts with the world. I'm your host, Pete Byrne, and I'm here to open your mind to new perspectives, to introduce you to some epic humans who are already out there living their deepest truth. So now just grounding in, taking a breath, letting go of anything you're still holding onto from today, and just opening up to receiving this episode now. Let's dive on in. What does it mean to be truly and fully expressed from the heart? And how can we use music and the voice to consciously bridge the gap between the human bodies we've been born into and a higher connection to love and source? Jess Magic is a singer and songwriter, a facilitator, a spaceholder, and a self-proclaimed Heartist who helps people free their voice and share their authentic message with the world. She carries many medicines, the most powerful which is the voice, and using her natural gift of song as a pathway into expression of fullest truth. For many years of her life, Jess would be what we would call a closet empath, someone who was closed off from her emotions and her ability and natural gifts to feel the emotions of others. And after a series of healing and awakening experience, some of which we dive into in this podcast, she was able to tap back into this gift of hers and not just fully feel and experience the emotions of others, but actually use her voice as a channel for the essence of her heart and the hearts of others. Jess has been running her signature Free Your Voice program for over 9 years, and in this episode we dive into her journey with her own voice and how singing was the key to unlocking so many areas of her life. She's also very well known for her soul salons, which are these non-denominational gospel gatherings that originated from Burning Man, that kind of like these get-togethers of people where there's song and channeling and prayers and poetry and just a unifying and co-created experience that brings tribe and community together with a deeper essence of what it means to be human. So in this episode, we dive into how song is the medicine that can unite us as humans and the consequences of repressing your true voice in the world. We look at how you can shine your unique light unapologetically while still being able to be in resonance and harmony with others without needing to squash or be bigger than or more than other people. What does it mean to be a Heartist? Which is, in her words, the blend between the artist, the lover, and the healer. And what is the power that's unlocked when we consciously connect to our voice and use it as a tool to fully express ourselves in the world? This is a super powerful episode. We have some really amazing ad-lib, song-style jams in it. We really just go up and down. It's fun. It's deeply insightful. I learned so much. I really, really loved this episode, and I know that you will too. Listen right to the end where we channel a full song live in the episode. It was a really powerful experience, and I really want to record that song. It's super fun, really nice tune. The Alive and Aligned theme song. So without further ado, here is the one and only Miss Jess Magic. Miss Jess Magic, a very warm welcome to the Alive and Aligned podcast.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
How you feeling?
Alive and aligned.
Conveniently.
And anything that's not, I'm sure, will get rectified here in this conversation.
I'll put you back in line. How was your morning? What were you up to?
This morning I had actually, it's really interesting. I had an altar clearing call with my women's, I don't even want to call it a retreat, but it's a group. It's more of a culture than a retreat. But basically we're birthing different modalities that can help a more thriving, enriching, coherent culture, especially inside of communities. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a practice group in a way for people that have a good amount of cultivation, capacity, already are code carriers. They're already in their dharma, but who are really wanting to more deeply cultivate themselves. And this particular ritual that we have been birthing is called the altar clearing ritual. which is basically this notion that there is in between every dyad, there's an altar. And that as we are building the relationship, we're starting to put sacred objects and talismans and tend to that altar that exists between our relational field. And that the metaphor is kind of like, you burn the copal or something like that, and like there starts to get gunk on the altar, and the burning of the copal could be the metaphor for like an experience or a disagreement or something that happens. And then there starts to be the gunk, and the idea is that you maintain the altar, you treat the relational field like an altar, and that when there's a little bit of gunk on it, when something happens, a disagreement, a fracture, that you're treating it like an altar and maintaining it, but also the recognition that in any relationship, especially ones that are really intimate or close or long-term, that a lot of times if we're not doing that on a regular basis, there starts to be this debris that builds up, and then it requires sometimes a lot more complex of an altar cleaning.
You gotta get the heavy tools in.
Yeah, you gotta sometimes you gotta get your jackhammer and you're like, like, well, there's a lot of gunk on this altar. Yeah. So it's basically, we look where this call was. We've birthed this practice that's called the altar clearing ritual, and it's basically like a fancy version of conflict resolution in a way, but it's addressing things at a nervous system level, at a spiritual level, emotional level, physical level, trauma-informed level, tracking the level of trigger that you're at. Where's your nervous system at in the moment? Do you need any support before you do this? Is this the right container for this? And are you both really in the desiring to continue on and build more intimacy? Because all these things help discern whether this is the right practice. So anyways, we were on a call that was demoing that and exploring that, and that's what I was doing right before I came here.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
I was expecting I went for a walk on the beach.
I had a coconut and walked my dog.
Life is hard,
I'm like, so let me tell you something.
Yeah. So before we get into the niceties, how might we, if we were to do a very shortened version of that, what would be the main principles if we were to work through a process like that here, or demo that here?
Yes. Let me see if I can remember the steps. My girlfriend, Jennifer Russell, I want to credit her. She came up with the foundation of this process. The altar clearing was something that came through me and around the relational field, but these steps that I'll share came from Jennifer Russell. And the first, it's like a loop. And the first one is regulate. So it's like regulate your nervous system, either on your own and then ideally together. The next one is restore. So it's like this aspect of getting each other's worlds, and anything that's any place I can take responsibility for what I've, a blind spot that I'm already aware of before you even have to bring it to me.
Yes.
Or just acknowledge
owning our shit, basically.
Owning our shit, So there's a restoration that can happen that already helps to open. The goal of it is to open the heart and to get to a place where the regulate is your body, the restore is your heart. Then I might mix up these two, but there is reinterpret, which is the mind, really. It's being willing to kind of just be maybe I know that this is my story, but I also am open to a new interpretation and include your story in that. And maybe there's another story, or at least I have the ability to hold my story and your story to some level.
Yes.
And be willing to change. The way she brings it is reinterpret is be willing to change your mind. And have your mind changed. There's all elements of identity that come up in this too.
Yes.
And the whole thing is interesting because you also start to look at your patterns, their patterns, survival strategy. There's so many different layers of complexity. Then there is restructure, and restructure is the body. So the restructure is how do we actually build a new structure? Like if we want to have behavioral change, how do we actually like put that? What are the new things? Like maybe we need, if we're in relationship with each other, like maybe our restructure is like before we get into our day, we're putting into a breathwork practice with each other and eye gazing, like cuddling and just like, and then we go and do our thing or whatever, but it's like, it's that opportunity. And then the last one is, we might have to take a pause on that one. But the last one, I can't remember the R of it, but the last one is basically, has to do with, release. The last one is letting go anything that is like any of the debris that actually can be let go of. Like, so it's really the like setting, it's more the spirit of like setting yourself and each other free of anything that can genuinely be let go of, so that you can go in and with a true forgiveness, like to give to each other the way that we were before, with that innocence and that purity and that generosity.
Like we just met and we're still googly eyed.
We're like, oh, like you can do no wrong by me. Totally.
Oh wait, you're human?
I'm over it. I'm so 9D.
Wow. Well, we could probably wrap it up there. I've already got my gold out of this conversation. That's great. I love that process.
Yeah.
Just in the prelude. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Great little process.
Thanks.
So for the folks back home, tell us a little bit about yourself. Some of the bullet points, the bios.
Bullet points bio. My name is Jess Magic. I am a Heartist, a ceremonialist. I love playing with archetypes, so I look at both of those as archetypes. I am a song carrier. Most of them are original songs, and I'm a community builder. And I would say I'm a culture coder too. Like I'm geeking out right now on what is the culture that we can embrace right now, that as many people as ready for it or as possible for can embrace, that creates more harmony and coherence, that is so sexy and compelling, that it's more sexy and compelling than this propensity we have for polarization and divisiveness.
Yes. So
I'm playing with modalities around that.
Yeah, that's a great little intro bio. I love it.
Thank you.
Let's dissect.
I try to be concise. I try to embrace my inner masculine.
It's great. Perfect. And so one question I'd love to like kind of open things up with is, obviously you're at this point in time with this in your repertoire and your roster and these different parts of you that have come to fruition. What has been your journey, like again in a 3 to 4 minute format, of not being in alignment and not finding these passions and these loves of who you truly are? What's been the journey to that? What if, let's say, okay, let's condense it a bit. Let's take the 3 most defining shifts that have happened from, regular old Jess back in the day to like who you are now.
Yeah. Thank you. That's helpful. One is, this might not be chronologically, but one was when I was 25 or so, I stumbled upon my first personal development workshop in Las Vegas called Choice Center.
So that's 4 years in the future.
Yes.
Making cat noises and visuals for anyone on just listening.
Enter cat noises and whisker strokes. I had this moment where we had to do this thing where people had to declare 3 values that they were. And I didn't even have this terminology at the time, but like it was the rest of the group's job to see and feel if it was fully congruent, if they were fully embodying it, if what they were saying about themselves, if they believed it, if it was true, and if they were saying it with crystal clarity from their gut and soul and heart. And I remember getting up there and saying, I am a genuine, inspiring, passionate woman. And some of the people came up and you had to stand up. for this, if you
yeah.
believed it. And like half the room stood up, and I'm up there, and I actually, like, we had to dress as our shadow that day. So I was dressed as Doom. Or like not our shadow, as like the thing that we felt like we were the most not. And so I was dressed up as a goth, like Doom, because I'm such like a sunshiny blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so I was dressed up as Doom, and I had like dark eyeshadow and eyeliner all underneath me. And so I'm standing up there and I'm saying this, and half the room is standing up, but half the room is sitting down. And I'm like, oh God, I'm not doing it right. I'm not there. And I could feel the genuine and the passionate were it. And I stumbled around a couple more times, and then all of a sudden from somewhere, I said, I am a genuine, emotional, passionate woman. And I can still feel it, even though this was 4 years in the future. But all of a sudden, I just, like, the whole room stood up, and I started weeping, and it broke open the floodgates of this, like, because up until that point, I had 20 years of, like, numbness. And I had basically, like, almost prided myself on the fact that I never cried. I'm like, yeah, I'm a girl that never cries. Like, I'm a heartbreaker. Like, I don't feel.
Yeah.
And then what I realized was that, like, when I was 5, this will be the second one, so we'll truncate it. When I was 5, something happened where I shut down I was such an empath. It was like I would walk by a homeless person on the street, and I would be haunted by every single part of their pain and their trauma. I could like feel it so deeply. I would make eye contact with them, and I would like take everything in and feel everything they felt, and I would like be awake at night as a little child. And so I think some part of my survival mechanism like kicked in and was like, we got to shut down her channel of this level of empathy. So for like 20 years, I didn't know that happened. So for like 20 years, I was kind of walking around a little desensitized and numb. And it was like this experience just somehow I was ready and I was safe, and it cascaded open. I started weeping. All the makeup was running down my face. Literally, the room got behind me, picked me up, threw me over their head, like, you would to like someone who just scored the winning touchdown. And I'm like, all I did was declare that I'm emotional. And I was like, oh, like winning life. But I will say that in terms of defining moment, it like opened up something around my empathy as a gift, and then that started changing my world as I don't really love calling myself a healer, but in the realm of capacity to really feel and support people and to
help them remember
and to be open and undefended, and just like I became like a very undefended being, which has, again, its pros and cons, but like it happened. So that was kind of like 2 in 1. And then the other one that feels good to share is when I was 31, now however many years in the future that is, I had an ending of an engagement that happened in a pretty quick and dirty way. And I got to really, like, it was sort of the next step of my heart opening, because I had still at that point, even though I was more sensitive, like never had my heart broken. And there was this thing, I remember saying a prayer that I'm like, I think I need to have my heart broken. And like, this engagement ended. I was actually the bull in the china shop around it. But like after this split happened, like my heart broke open. I realized how much this man loved me, how much I loved him, how much chaos I was in. And life basically gave me this opportunity to look at 2 paths forward. One being the path of busyness, like being in the masculine. I was running a nonprofit. I was busy every night. I was like
distraction.
So distracted. And I felt super important and super on purpose. I was really in my masculine. I was like, I'm so on purpose. I'm so passionate. I'm doing really good things. I'm so busy. I have no time for this man. I'm not in my devotion. Blah, blah, blah. And then, or, so you could stay busy, or you could feel the depth of this moment and go to the pit of your grief and become a better lover, a better teacher, a better woman, a better healer, a better life liver. And so, I chose dua. And that's Bahasa for tool. And so and in that journey, my heart just like, it was like I went into so much grief and so much pain that I needed like a lifeline in order to just keep me kind of like tethered to a thread of continuity in a way. And I wasn't a musician at that time. I wasn't a singer. I had done musical theater when I was little, but I had vocal nodes, so which as a singer, that's like the worst thing ever.
Not ideal.
It's not ideal. So I just totally like put that aside. Never ever. Once that got diagnosed, I never thought about it again. And this happened, and it was like I would start calling friends that played instruments, and I'd be like, "Yo, dude, can you come over? Like, I have something that needs to come through right now." And there was this one morning in Mexico in particular where I was laying in bed with this friend of mine, and he was playing guitar, and I was like, the iPhone was pretty new, and one of our other friends was there. She's like, I'm just gonna record this, which I don't think I even really like was tracking what that meant, but she pressed voice record, and this like stream of consciousness opened up in the form of music, and it was a full channel. And when I listened back to it, it was like in this song, I said everything that I've been unable to say and unable to access to this past partner.
From the logical mind, yeah.
From the logical mind. And when I would share things with him, it was like it wasn't landing for him. And then when this came through, it was like this unadulterated, pure stream from the heart. And I was like, oh, I'm not an artist because I didn't think I was technically proficient enough to call myself an artist at that time, which that's a whole other thing.
Totally.
But I was like, I'm not an artist, but I could be a heartist. And I'm like, oh, I know that I have this channel that's accessible, that is a direct line from my heart to the world and to myself and to the people that I love. So it was a really big defining moment because I feel like it kind of catalyzed me into what I didn't realize at the time, but now I know would become like my deeper dharma of being this like unfiltered, unadulterated, expressionary that has a real channel that's available to meet the moment. And it started to open up in beyond like my own feelings, but then I could start doing that for other people where I could, kind of tie those gifts together of the empathy and the channel and the music to be able to like feel what you're feeling, feel it in my heart, tap into my heart, and then reflect it and then give you back something that is like where you're like, oh my God.
You just said it better than I could.
Yeah, saying it better than I could.
Yeah.
And then the singing helped cultivate that like non-mental, non-linear, non-logical way. The more that I practiced singing it, the more that I could actually speak it. So it started really like, it was like developing a direct line between the heart and the voice that then started to, the more that I played with that, it was like a connection point that then I could start doing in my speaking and in other realms.
Yeah. Epic.
So that's my little story.
Yeah, it's great. It's so funny that like as you're sharing this, because we've never really had a chance to properly drop in, we've kind of been flying around the place. And even how we've ended up here today and like the stuff that hasn't been unfolding has been so synchronistic between us. We'll get to that later. But just even in hearing you share that, like, and like seeing, I said, some of like the legend of Jess Magic going around doing her thing, it's like, it is its own kind of niche. It's its own thing, what you do. And again, we'll explore that. But just for me to really reflect, there's been different moments for me where I've sometimes aided by the use of our fungal friends, but often not as well, like in the creation of this musical that we did recently, for instance, finding pure songs of just like clarity, truth just coming through, just like boom, there it is. And like I'm listening back, reading the lyrics and going, this is good shit, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like I can't take credit for it. I'm sure you can probably say the same. It's just like I'm just the instrument nearly, It's
so wild how that is, I know that concept of the muse, most people have some familiarity around that, but there's a way that, some lineages call it the muse, some call it the genius. And it's this idea that there's this like these creative beings or spirits that are around us that are kind of whispering to us, seeing who is going to receive them. And I feel like that's happened with some of the songs, and that's what I hear in what you're saying too, of where it's like, I really feel,
I don't know.
There's certain songs I'm like, I cannot take any credit. It came through in 5 minutes, complete. And then I've had experiences where I had an experience where there was this one song, It's called Over to Thee. It's really like it came through as a gospel song. And it literally came through in 5 minutes. I was sitting looking at the ocean. It was like, and I'm like, I think this is done. And I wasn't even trying to write a song.
Yeah.
And then I was volunteering for this safe house for child survivors of sex trafficking on the Mexico-California border. And I am not like fluently bilingual, but I can speak good conversational Spanish. So most of what I was doing with them, I was doing song and dance and connection, sisterhood workshop for these girls ages 5 to 17 who'd been taken away from their families and their perpetrators and all this stuff. And it's, pretty intense. But there are these little angels, and like singing and dancing was the best way to connect, because it's just, like you don't
Universal,
have to have a perfect language proficiency. But anyways, at one point I decided to sing this song, Over to Thee, and there was a part of me that was like, do I sing this? It's in English, and none of them spoke English at all. I started singing this song, and I kid you not, they started singing along, like in English, like not from the beginning, but it's like they heard a verse and a chorus, and they like it was like they knew it already. And it was like, and then they asked to sing it again, and then the second time they're all like singing this song in English. I don't even know if they knew what the words meant, but like it was like their souls knew this song, and it felt like a miracle. I was like, oh my gosh, wherever this song came from, like they know it already. And so, just to that point that you're making of like sometimes these things, it's like they exist somewhere else, and then they just happen to come through us when we're receptive to it.
Sure. How difficult would it be to play that song right now, do you think?
I could do it. I could do it.
Tell me the chords.
Okay, well, there's different. Okay, the main chord progression is G, D, A, C. It might be too many things. I think I have it printed out somewhere. You're so good. You can probably figure this out really fast. G, D, A, C, G. That's the chorus and the verses. And then the pre-chorus is G, A minor, C, G, and then,
Yeah, it's definitely an A in there, or is it an A minor? In the verse.
In the pre-chorus, it's an A minor. It's A minor both
A minor,
times.
yeah.
Not so, classically trained.
G, D, A minor, C. In the verse, and then the pre-chorus.
In the pre-chorus or the chorus?
Pre-chorus.
Pre-chorus is G, A minor, C, G.
And then the main bit is G.
Yeah.
D,
A minor, C, G. Yeah.
And is there anyone that is like halftime? Or?
Yeah, the A minor and the C are halftime. Wow, you're so good.
Okay, yeah, so.
Yes, but like
slower.
Like twice as slow as that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's good?
Yeah. I wanna flow. Oh, maybe the timing is a little bit different. So it goes.
You just start it.
I wanna flow like a river. I wanna grow like a tree. I wanna know how to deliver all of my heart and all of my soul over to Thee. 'Cause you are the sun and you are the ocean. Oh, you are the birds and you are the question. You're in all that I hear, and in all that I see. And then this goes into the pre-chorus. And even when I lost my way, don't know where to go and forget how to pray, I question everything my heart and soul know to be true.
Again?
And then one more time, yeah. And even when I'm feeling tired and the weight of the world is heavy on my mind, I can always lay down my load, and then it goes too deep. Yeah, back to flow like a river. I wanna grow like a tree. I wanna know just how to deliver all of my heart and all of my soul over to thee. And then there's another verse here. Teach me to stand tall like a mountain. Oh, won't you teach me to bloom just like a flower? Because you are the water, oh, and I am the fountain. And I want to see you, know you, love you, and feel your power. Even when I lost my way. And even when I lost my way, don't know where to go and forget how to pray, I question everything my heart and soul know to be true. Even when I'm feeling tired and the weight of the world is heavy on my mind, I can always lay down my load and give it over to you. I wanna flow like a river. I wanna grow like a tree. I wanna grow like a tree. I wanna know how to deliver. I wanna know how to deliver all of my heart, all of my soul, all of my heart and all of my soul over to thee. All of my heart, all of my soul, all of my heart and all of my soul over to thee. You guys gonna sing this one with us? All of my heart, all of my soul, all of my heart and all of my soul over to thee. Thee can be wherever you want to surrender to. Ready? All of my heart and all of my soul over to thee. One more time, my heart and all of my soul over to thee. Yeah! Wow, you're so good.
Thank you.
You're so good. Wow. Truly, that, like what he just did, for those of y'all that don't know, like to pick something up so fast, stylize it, groove with it, like that, not everybody can do that. It's really amazing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Good work, darling. Good work.
All those years sitting in the bedroom, you know, comes in handy. No, but it's great. It was amazing. Love it. And just, I can see why the Mexican girls enjoyed it, because it's such, like the words, like I've said, I've never heard that song before, but like the words are just simple. Like it's the melodies, it's, you can just rock along to it. And that's the essence. Like it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be complicated, crazy scales or anything. It's like, it's real.
It's real. I feel my truth tears when you say that. That's what I call it when I like tear up and I feel like I get penetrated with something that is like so relevant, resonant. Simplicity, you know, and I think that this for me, there is so much to be said for all of the beautiful complexity of really highly trained musicians and technicians in the sonic realms.
Beethoven's in your...
Oh my gosh, like hallelujah, literally. And for me, in looking at my particular flavor of Dharma and the role that I play is as I feel like a harmonizer and a unifier, and in that, in some ways, the simpler the better. It like this is one of the reasons why Bob Marley was able to, like, he's one of the most beloved artists of all globally. Like everywhere I try, and you're such a jet setter too. Like, it's an interesting thing, you know, traveling the world and going to these different places, and like almost everywhere you go, people know and love Bob Marley. And I think it's because it's so funny, you know, I love being here in Bali and singing. Whenever I ask what my Balinese friends want to sing, usually it's Bob Marley. And you start singing, and even if they don't totally know what the words mean and are singing kind of their own version of it, it's like they're just in it, and they feel it, and there's joy, and there's something that is beyond having the exact context of what the meaning of the English words are.
Sure.
But there's something that is unifying about it, and there's uplifting. So I love music that allows for that, where it really does transcend cultural barriers, and people can just feel something in it and then participate in it.
It's almost like music as a different, like for me, music is it's like the speaker horn and the tool, you know, as opposed to like music for music's sake. Like I've got some very, very talented like saxophone, trombone player friends and stuff, and they're so like 8 hours a day practice into like playing these mad scales and stuff. It's like, that's like a nuance. It's like going in like an academic field musically, you know, versus just the simplicity of a 4-line poem, you know, but just that everyone can get. And I think particularly with when you speak to this concept of Heartist, which I'd love to explore more, this idea of making it, as you said, simple and accessible, so that people can tune into the frequency and the words, but it's in a way that they can actually somewhat quantify, you know, because if we have an enlightening experience, but we don't know what the fuck happened, then how can we actually make any meaning or sense of that? Whereas when there's a resonance behind the words and the song, but then it's understandable and it's like connectable to one's own environment, like, you know, the words you're using, the seas and the trees and the rivers and stuff. It's like, like the metaphor is simple enough for the average person to buy into. So it's actually like, it's way more distributable, you know? It's they can buy into that much easier.
Yes, I really care about accessibility, and you know, I do these gospel brunches at Burning. I started doing them at Burning Man, but then they were so enjoyed, and people got so excited about them because it was this non-dogmatic, non-denominational way to participate in some of the epicness of gospel music and gospel harmonies in particular. I was collaborating with my friend True, and so we were really bringing in some of the cultural context of Black gospel music, particularly, and he's a ethnomusicologist, and like who went to college for the history of Black music, you know, from Africa to jazz to blues to like the whole all the origins, tracking all the way back. And so he would bring in this context both from his experience as a gospel singer growing up in a church in Harlem to, you know, his education around the full history of it. And one of the things he was sharing with me recently is that there is actually a lot of research that's done into why certain stylings, certain harmonies, certain chords bring us into a feeling of sacred music. You know, Kirtan does this. There's lots of different lineages that have tapped into this almost like sound healing technology that's at a resonance and vibrational and harmonic level that like is working with our bodies and our systems to take us into places in altered state and more easily access altered states. And that's why the chanting, and, you know, there's so many different there's like science and history to all this stuff. But this experience that I had of kind of like looking at gospel music, but taking it a little bit away from the religious context of Christianity and still doing my best to honor that gospel came from that place and came from the Bible and means good news. But being like, wait, gospel means good news? Like, what happens if we sing the gospel of love? Like the good news of love. So I've been working on this project called the Gospel of Love, where people can learn. We can make these arrangements that work with these ways of bringing people into 3-part harmony, vocal harmony, where they can feel like they're singing their own unique note while also being in resonance with others, which is, to me, it's like an embodied way of experiencing what I think most of us want for the planet is how do we as humans live in harmony with each other and with the planet and
while
all
still
of life.
Being unique with our own note.
While not disowning our uniqueness, because that's part of, I think, what it is to be, like, I think our human species, at least at this time in our evolution, still really values uniqueness, and that's a beautiful thing. And we're not yet at that place of just all blending into one goo, cosmic goo. And so I think harmonies are really cool, and music as a metaphor of like, jazz as a metaphor of like, well, you're listening to each other, but yet like this person's having this like moment to shine with their instrument, but everyone else is then supporting them. And so it all still is really pleasurable and coherent, but everybody gets a chance to shine. And then you have the opportunity where it's not about anyone shining. It's actually about like, those choirs that you can't even pick out any one note, because what they're doing is attuning themselves with a mastery of listening and expression at the same time. And so I think these are all metaphors for when is it the moment for me to like be unapologetically me, shining my light and like inviting in the support and the allies that want to back my play because they trust me. Versus when is it the time for me to back up someone else's play and like soften a little bit, but still be there, present and engaged. And when is it the time where it's like, wow, this is a moment of unity where like I'm singing my unique note, but I'm not trying to stand out. I'm actually trying to blend in fully to create the most resonant field. So I think there's like so much in that as a metaphor,
Yeah, totally. It's powerful. And in terms of this concept, like how does a, inverted commas, heartist differ from an artist?
I'm so glad you asked that question. So I feel like with heartistry, it's less about technique and methodology and even talent, and more about essence, truth, vulnerability, vibration, and like the purity of the place where it's coming from. I once said it's less about a vocation and more about a vibration. And so it's like I can see heartists in all different types of fields of work. It's like, there's plenty of entrepreneurs and mothers and fathers that are heartists. And the way that they parent their kids, or the way that they run their business, or the place that they're coming from and how they treat their team, is like. And so one of the things is like when you're in your heartistry, it's really, you're in it because you are the fullest. And this goes back to the beauty of the name of your podcast. You are like the most alive and aligned version of yourself. And so I love it even as a question sometimes of like, what is the thing that when you're doing it, you feel like the most alive and aligned version of yourself? And maybe that's your heartistry, and maybe it's not your work or even your art. It might not even, some people, they started out maybe where music was their heartistry or painting was, but then it got kind of like to be a burden, or they put, or a lot of pressure. Sometimes people their parents put a lot of pressure because they were so talented that it's like they're no doubt an artist, but like, are they the most alive version? It might be that they're the most alive version when they're creating a moment of intimacy like one of my forms of heartistry is I love acknowledging and seeing other people. I love, like, as a very vocal person, as you can see, because I'm such a yapper, but as a very vocal person, I love acknowledging people. I love like that words of affirmation, but I love really seeing somebody for who they are and seeing them in a way that maybe they don't even see themselves, bringing that forward. And like, I'm one of the best versions of myself vibrationally when I'm doing that, because I'm like, my mind is not there, my ego, there's no backstory, I'm fully present, I'm just like in the moment. So I think that that's one of the things. I used to say that a heartist is an archetype, and it's kind of the blend of the artist and the lover. And then sometimes I would invite in the creator or the healer as a third part of it, but it really, like, I would say, like, the artist and the lover are the biggest components of the Heartist.
How do you find this? So I'll just give a bit of backstory. As a, well, I'm not even going to generalize and say, like, maybe I will. I'll just go there. I'll just say, so I
Go there.
Yeah, do it. I grew up without, I believe, at least what I'm starting to understand, this concept of, inverted commas, love, big L love, you know? I'm realizing more and more, even in the last weeks, how my interpretation of what love was in a relating or in a just friendship or just context like that was one of actually, my experience of what I thought that was actually being validated or being like proving myself and being kind of patted on the head nearly as an experience of love, you know, or patting myself on the head. And it's been interesting where, like, because you were speaking earlier about music as the thing that opened you up to that, and I've had a few people reflect me, particularly, we'll say, women who tend to be more tuned in to these kind of things, really go, whoa, like, what you're doing there is, like, super connected to the heart. I'm like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm just playing and this chord and, you know, like, very technical. But I found an element of bridging the gap and at least a pathway into this idea of what is love. Baby, don't hurt me no more.
I was going to do it.
Yeah, you're going to do it. Yeah, I beat you to it. And funny, you mentioned the truth tier. That's a moment as well where no matter how in my head I am, if I play an original song that I really allow myself to drop into, I usually left eye tear up, and I used to fucking hide the shit out of that, particularly back when I used to be playing in the bars and that kind of thing. Like, I'd be like, holy shit, that's super embarrassing, you know, but it's a window into what's actually, you know, where that's coming from. It's almost like I'll open that for 3 minutes and then, right, shut the fucking thing down, let's get back to Wonderwall now, you know. Yeah. So how can we use music as a way to consciously more bridge the gap between, you know, what is there, what's happening in the body, and this experience of love that we can, you know, all connect to, you know, if we just remove the concentric layers and blocks around it. How can we consciously bring that into our lives in the way that you've kind of done in a way, because you use the music to tap in and now you've connected with your voice and you're speaking it.
Yes. Well, I love that you just asked that. It's weird. You'd think that people would have asked me that exact question before, never in that way. So I'm really wanting to answer it really deeply. I feel like the simplest thing is that there is a way that, you know, music taps into the right brain in so many ways. Singing taps into the right brain, especially when you're not trying to do it in a super technical way. So it just it opens up that part. But like the deeper there's and then there's anatomical things about especially singing and what it does to the vagus nerve and how it relaxes the nervous system, and like, you know, you really start to tell your, like, it's very, you're not going to be singing when you're actually in a legitimate fight or flight. Like if you're getting chased by the tiger. You haven't
seen some of my concerts. 200 BPM, like, let's fucking go.
Amazing. I love it.
But still relaxed in that, you know?
And still there's something like, it you know, it's actually like at an anatomical nervous system level, relaxing you. Yes. So, which I think starts to bring your energy down out of the mind, out of the, like, am I safe, you know, which is like, we're constantly, my girlfriend yesterday, who's an amazing doctor and scientist, was talking about how, like, pretty much we are never not assessing, am I safe, am I not safe, am I safe? It's like all the time on either a very low volume or for some, you know, very, very high volume for good reason. But I think that music really allows us to, like, rest and to tap into a different part of ourselves. And the more kind of nuanced thing that's, I can't prove it, it's just more my direct experience with the clients I work with and the spaces that I've held, is that they're, you know, kind of like what you were just bringing about, how that single tear would come down when you were singing your own song. There's a vulnerability that I find particularly about the throat, and it's like people can do the work to start to open up their sexuality, which is very vulnerable for some. They can do the work to open up their power center, their solar plexus. They can do
Scream
the work.
into pillows.
Yeah, like, you know, we can do a lot of that. And it's all vulnerable. It's all powerful. But there is something that I feel about the neck. Like, it's the most undefended. Like, if you want to kill somebody right away, it's like, you know, like that's the place. Any animal, any predator knows, like, that's the quickest spot. So I feel like there's this, like, anatomical, energetic vulnerability about the throat and feeling vulnerable here, not to mention that there's this notion that I have that the voice is the vehicle that carries the essence of your soul into the world. And so that there's this gateway, like this, the voice and the throat is like this gateway where you have the opportunity to bring your inner world out. And so I think that music and singing is a way that, like, speaking, we're so conditioned from the time we're young to speak from, like, what we've memorized or what we know or what our parents said is good. So there's a lot more to unravel around that.
There's more patterning. There's more opportunity to drop into.
But I think that I think singing in particular and working with music is a way to have a pattern interrupt that's more efficient. And we recognize as vulnerable, but if we can get rid of our judgment of, I have this saying that's, we don't sing to be good, we sing to be free. And it's like, if we can get out of this, like, am I a good singer? Does anyone want to hear me? Am I going to get rejected, judged, blah, blah, blah. And I had a whole program I ran for 9 years called Free Your Voice, because it was all around
Heard about it,
Yeah, it's like, it taught me so much around all of the reasons why people shut that down, and all of the what's possible, not just in the realm of, it's not about singing or being a musician, but what's possible when we start to open up that channel. And so I think that then when we're speaking or singing from a place that is undeniably authentic, from whether it's the heart or the, like, cock or the gut wisdom, there's this congruence that comes through that is our tone, our vibration, our words, our matching the felt experience that's inside, and it's
they're
powerful.
Charged up with something.
They're charged, and people receive us differently, and we receive each other differently in that way.
And we almost then allowed them to tap into that part of themselves which they might not have access to. You know, it's like, okay, so for instance, I do like connected breathwork as a facilitator, and like one song I always love to drop if someone's like, I think they're kind of in the, you know, mid-20s to mid-30s range, I always drop My Immortal by Evanescence if I think they're on the edge of crying, because there's one of those ones that's like, it's a really, the piano, it's haunting, but there's probably some kind of emotional resonance of a song like that people can connect to, that they probably can't even tap to. Even if they want to come in and cry, they probably can't. But if they hear a song, it just brings them there without even... And the same goes for the flip side, which is like for something that's really connected, is said to like the heart or truth or something that is undeniable. It's just like, yeah, there it is. It's
so good. It's like I you know, you said something earlier that I feel really resonates with me as well, that music is a tool. Like, for me, it's not about, you know, I'm not I never was trying to be like an American Idol singer, you know. When music found me in that experience I shared, it came to me as like, use me as a tool. Like, I'm here, I want to be used as a tool. And then it was so funny when I started having music be a part of my profession, and then people started asking me to professionally sing places, because I'm like, part of me is like, are you sure? Like, I'm not a great singer. Like, I'm like, okay, you know, but
get Mariah.
There was like that, you know, that was in the back, but I was like, but the biggest part of me was like, that's not, you know it, that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
And so that's what kind of got, and this is something that I also love to share with people, is like, especially if people are afraid of their expression, if they're holding something back, you know, and this goes into, I also feel like alive and aligned, you know, because how can we be living alive and aligned if there's a part of ourselves that is deeply wanting to express and is being repressed because we're afraid of whatever the consequences, perceived or not, you know? And it's that sometimes you need to allow the devotion to outweigh the ego. And for me, every time I have fear coming up around, is this good enough? Is it going to be received? Which comes up, I think, for most artists, heartists, creators, people, what comes to me is like, I run it through the lens of like, what is this for? Is this for me to get validation or for me to be liked? Or is this like coming from the purest place? And I'm like willing to lay myself and my reputation and my perception on the line because something in me is so devoted to this truth or this expression or that person who I know needs this right now because I can feel them. And like, am I willing to go get over myself and any of the voices of my ego that are like, don't do it. And it's a good test because if the devotion isn't strong enough, it will show me. It'll show me like, oh, that actually like is not actually coming from the like purest place. Because when it is, it's like
there's no doubt.
It's an undammable river. When the devotion is really that strong, it's like, you know. And we become truly fearless. I feel like in those moments.
It's interesting. Another lens that I've used personally in that is, do you ever play the game Guess Who?
Yeah, but it's been so... Yeah.
You know, with all the faces and you're trying to guess what the other... So imagine a crowd, like a Guess Who board. You know, you've got like, just in case you've never come across the game Guess Who, it's like you've got like 25 different faces of different people and then you have to guess what the other person has. And then you close down each face one by one. Like until the goal is to close all the faces down, guess all the other person's people or whatever it is, I think. Anyway, the point is that there's 25 faces in front of you and they're all looking at you, you know? And so a lot of people might approach a crowd like, wow, there's all these people looking at me, and they might try to connect to individual parts of it and want to be liked. And then as people, they see people drop off in that crowd, they see faces go down. They're like, oh no, they don't like me. Oh no, they don't like it. Oh no, and they start going inward and questioning the story. Whereas what I like to imagine is closing all the faces, like having zero expectation of anyone, and then put one face up and go, how can I change this person's life? How can I touch this one person and make that the thing? And like, even if no one liked it, and even if I play the song or the show and everyone fucking hates it, can I still accept myself? Yeah, I'll be all right. That'd be good. Great lesson, you know, just not for them. And then from that place we build, instead of this thing of like fear of loss, you know, like risk aversion of like losing, 100% of people didn't like it. Oh no, let's build from zero and say, even if 1% of people enjoy it, now we're talking. And then that creates the energy which ripples outward, I think.
100%. I feel that so deeply. In when I'm playing shows, I call them my energetic anchor points, and usually they wind up being the person. They usually come up and say something after, or I'll sometimes even say something to them and say, "Hey, thank you. You were one of my energetic anchor points," and you know what I'm talking about, right? And you're like, it's like you're scanning the crowd, and there's different layers of how on board people are, you know. And sometimes people are like, you gotta, you know, with some people, you gotta earn it. Yeah. Some people come in, they're just like ready for whatever, you know. And some people
are too ready.
Some people are too ready. You're like, I didn't even earn here, you know. But like, there's those people that just like, they just like get it. You're exactly what they came for. They need it. They know it. They're with you. They're tracking you, and they're like holding this presence. And those for me are my energetic anchor points. And I'll like circulate, and then I'll come back to them, and they'll help keep me on track in this. And I had a little story that what you just shared reminded me of like, and again, I kind of share this for anybody listening that is also in that interesting navigation of social media and like, what do I do with this? And in a world of like massive content creation and blah, 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 and what's authentic and what's not. I remember having this song that came, you know, it was one of those freestyle songs. It came through. I didn't feel like it came through for me. Like it was called You're Not Alone. And I didn't know who it was for, but it like came through pretty strongly. And I just was like kind of sitting with it because it felt raw. It felt unfinished. But I'm like, I feel like this came through for somebody. And this was years ago before I was doing this inside of ceremonies and things like that. I could just like, so I'm like, I was really second guessing it. I'm like, this is so imperfect. It's so raw. I don't even feel like it's for me. I don't know who it's for. I don't know if it's good, blah, blah, blah. And that kind of thing of like, somehow I think this is for somebody, one person out there. So I just put it, at that time I was using Facebook, and I put it on Facebook. And I got a call the next morning from a woman that her like she basically woke up in the middle of the night, totally depressed, like suicide. This is a badass woman, like a New York full badass. Woke up in the middle of the night, like found herself super depressed, had been going through something with her ex who had like, anyways, I can't remember the details, but she was found herself in a dark night, and for whatever reason she went on Facebook. For whatever reason my song popped up. She called me the next day. She's like, literally, I feel like that song was written for me, to me, at the right moment. It feels like it saved my life. It literally took me into the light. And I was just started weeping. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, you know, and I was in California. She was in New York. She wasn't somebody even on my radar. And the immediacy of that experience hit me so fast. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can never unsee this or forget this. Like, this stuff is real. So may I get out of my own way over and over and over and over again, and just keep listening to whatever that thing is that's like, maybe, just maybe, this is actually like happening for a reason.
Yeah, you don't need to know why it's bigger than you.
I don't need to know why.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Whew, that's a good one.
I know.
I think we should close with a bit of an exploration.
Let's do it.
What's coming to me is based on the topics of conversation. I think we should sing something about being alive and aligned, because I don't have a theme song, like a lyrical.
Let's let it come through.
And from the heart space.
Yeah. Will you kick it off?
Yeah, I'll put some music down for sure, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, just for the folks back home, this is like, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen, but.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna actually tap into the future self of all of you who haven't even heard this yet in this moment, and we're gonna imagine what you need to know right now. What do you need to know? What are you desiring to hear? What would be serving for you in terms of that communion with a life that is truly alive and aligned, and see what comes through in connection, because you're helping us create this.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, I have a shaker. Should I get it?
Sorry?
Should I get my shaker?
Sure. Yeah, so we're talking something like this. I'll start off. And I feel alive now, and it wasn't like I thought I would before. Not the way I thought it would feel, but I like it now. And I know that I've been waiting for someone, and that someone is me. I know I feel alive now. Let's not forget how it feels when you're on top of the world and living your purpose, speaking your truth. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. I am alive now. No, you know now. There's never been a time in the history of this modern world to be alive.
Remember why you came here. Remember your decision to align. To align, to align, to align with your divine design. Remember when you came here. Many years, many lifetimes, when you decided to surrender, to remember, to discover your purpose, your service, your living and honing.
I know there will be times when it gets harder out there, and I know it won't feel right. You might question what you're doing wrong, but just know you always got the way back to that place you know, the place that's deep inside, because you're alive and alive now. You're alive and alive and alive now.
Alive and alive and alive now.
You're alive and alive now.
Alive and alive now.
There ain't no other way to be. I hope you soon finally see now.
Decided to be you when you realized everyone else was taken. Your life is not mistaken, you're not forsaken. Even when the road feels long and winding, let our love remind you you're not alone. We're walking here right beside you. Sometimes we don't know where we're going, but that's why we love the mystery, because everything that already happened in the past is a history. So we alive and we alive, overcome the fear and we take another step forward in the direction of our sacred erection. Yes, I said the word erection. Did you like it? Admit it, you know, it's okay.
So let this be your prayer now. I commit to becoming the highest version of me. I will promise myself that I will not give up until I lead that life that I know that I was born to lead. So I commit to that highest version, 'cause I'm alive and alive now.
Alive and alive now.
Ooh, I'm alive and alive, yeah.
Alive and alive now.
And if you ever really needed one more clear sign, keep listening to Alive and Aligned. Miss Jess Magic, thank you for joining us on the podcast. How could we possibly talk anymore?
Thank you so much. What a pleasure and a privilege and a blessing.
Where can we find you with your things?
You can find me in jessmagic.com. It's easy. And then Instagram is yesjessmagic. Please, if you reach out on Instagram, just inspire me to post more, because, you know, it's kind of a barren desert right now. But yes, jessmagic.com is probably the best place.
I think we'll have some pretty tasty clips coming your way after this one. So thank you so much for coming.
So beautiful.
So good.
What an epic vision. Alive and aligned. I'm in.
You!